I have had a shave for this episode.
That, yeah. We're kind of beard buddies now.
I was thinking the more we hang out together, the more I start looking like you.
You're gonna have your period at the same time soon.
Synchronized. Don't put that in at the start. Happy New Year, Mitch.
Happy New Year, man. What's going on?
All good. Looking forward to catching up today proper. First time this year.
Absolutely, mate. Good to be back in front of the microphone and seeing what's going on in the whiskey world. So how's your Christmas and New Year, mate?
Mate, brilliant. Really, really good. What did we do? Drank whiskey, sat in a hot tub. It got quite cold at some points, but I had a really nice time.
A hot tub? Where were you that had a hot tub?
Got one here.
You got a hot tub in your house?
Not in my house, out the back.
What? When did you get that? Why have I never been invited round to your hot tub?
I like to keep things either professional or, personal. And you and I are very professional.
Right, okay. I'm amazing in a hot tub, though. The only thing about a hot tub is I never wear trunks. Never wear Speedos. I'll sometimes walk up to the hot tub with my Speedos on, but then they always have to come off before I jump in.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, I like that. It's very liberal of you. Yeah. Everybody, Happy New Year and welcome to the very first episode of Not Another Podcast in 2022.
Yes, indeed. And let's talk about what's going to be what's new for this year for the podcast, Daz.
New for this year? Well, mate, we're going to do 50 episodes this year.
50 episodes, people. Get ready. Hold everything down. Get your whiskey glasses warmed up. We're going to hit you with 50 episodes. Can you believe that?
Yeah, and I think it's cool because the format is this. Every second week, we will do a normal podcast. We hit some news up, we taste some whiskies, we talk about something that we're interested in and around whiskey, we bring some guests in and things like that. And then in between those weeks, what we'll do is we'll invite one person in for a 30 minutes with. And that's pretty much just an unedited conversation with someone from whiskey, a writer, a distiller, a brand ambassador, those types of people. And we'll have a chat with them. And that's how we're going to do it.
Yep. The other cool thing is we've got some new sound effects. So this is the one for Daz's bad jokes. That's going to be used a lot.
I think it's just Daz's jokes.
Fair enough.
When you say we, I don't use sound effects. These are Mitch's.
It's all me. It's all me because I'm the gadget guy. Daz is not renowned for his technical skills. Well, you have got better though, mate. Thanks, mate. I'd say in the last year, your technical skills have definitely improved. So this one is for you, mate. I got this one because I know you love your pirates. Arr. There you go. We got that. That's a good one. And this is possibly my favorite one. I don't know when we're going to ever use this, but I think we should use it as often as possible.
Son of a biscuit eater.
Very good.
So new sound effects are all loaded in. But the other cool thing that we are going to do is we're going to take this on the road, guys. And I think we mentioned this maybe in one of the last episodes, but we do have a plan to do 2 Not Another Whiskey podcasts live. We're not sure where they're going to be yet. We're thinking one of them's maybe going to be in Edinburgh, and then maybe another one at a whiskey festival, maybe Speyside Whiskey Festival or Isla Whiskey Festival. We'll see how that goes. But the plan is to get you guys along in person. You can shout abuse at us. We can get you guys up on the microphones, get you involved in the show, and obviously pour some whiskey down your necks. It should be fun.
It's going to be a good year, mate. I'm absolutely buzzing. And within that, there are going to be some absolutely delicious whiskies. Now, going back to our last episode with Charlie McLean, the episode that we finished the year on, which I thought was a lot of fun. What whiskey did you give Santa?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Did you know? I gave Santa. I didn't actually follow Charlie's guidance. He said Santa drinks sherry, and I like that. I gave him a massive Loch Lomond 12-year-old.
See, but you're all right. You've got kids that believe in Santa still. Remember, I've got a teenager. She's like, whatever, man. I thought you were going to ask the other question about, did I take Charlie's advice over New Year and pace myself?
Did you?
No.
I did.
I'll tell you a funny story, right? So my new year consisted of, well, we had to go up to Speyside and do like an up there and down because we got a last minute booking. So we had to go up and change the house over and do all that. So that is, when you do that, it's basically 6 hours of driving, right, up there and back, 4 hours to get the house ready. So we did that. I came back and then we had a house party to go to. And I'm like, all right, it's been a big day. I'm pretty tired. So Craig Holmes, our Welsh whiskey friend, who you remember for a couple of episodes back, Craig told me about this thing called a Shatti mat, which I've been using a lot, and it's really good. So I don't know if you've seen one of these. I don't know if anyone listening uses one of these or have seen them before, but essentially it's kind of like the bottom of a golf shoe. It's like all these spikes, like thousands of spikes, and you lie on it, kind of like a bed of nails. So I've been using it a lot, and I get a lot of energy from it. And I'm like, that's great. So I come back from Speyside. I'm like, right, going to this house party. It's New Year. I need to get some energy up. So I do this mat, right? What I didn't realize was when you drink after doing this mat, it moves all the blood around your body. So I go to the house party, do a handful of beers. I literally did 3 whiskeys, and I was completely wasted because I'm pretty sure, just exhaustion from doing the whole day and that mat as well. And I was done, and I didn't see the bells, mate. I was in bed for 11 o'clock.
Wow, that's a good effort. Big question though, Mitch. Big question.
Yeah.
Did you shatsy yourself?
Don't ever shatsy yourself before drinking whiskey, is my advice to everyone
I like that.
for 2022. So yeah,
there's a New Year's resolution you might actually stick to. Right. So for our first episode of 2022, we thought we should take a wee look back before we look forward to the year ahead. And we've got a few topics today, Mitch, that we're going to bash on through. Are you ready for this?
Mm-hmm. Always.
We've not had this conversation.
No, we haven't. We wanted to keep it a surprise.
Yeah. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. So what we're going to start off with is our top 3 whiskies of 2021. Anything we might have tasted, bottles that we may have bought, things that we might have worked on, anything goes. So Mitch, what is your top 3 whiskies of 2021, sir?
So yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to keep this to ones that are readily available, not the stupid ones that we sometimes drink that are unattainable and really expensive. Not that we can afford them, but we kindly get given some of those by the nice whiskey companies and ambassadors that we know. So I wanted to keep this sort of relatable to everyone so they could go out and actually try them in a bar or go and buy them. I wanted to start with a stupid one, though. I'd like to call this an honorable mention, which was Balvenie Rose 21-year-old, which is the new Balvenie Rose. And I was lucky enough to try that up at the distillery. You know me, Daz, I'm not a big fan of wine cask finishes, but I have to say this is the best wine cask finish I've ever tried. So it's finished in Australian Shiraz casks, just absolutely beautiful. Not readily available. So kind of going back on everything that I'm talking about, you can only get it at the distillery, some selected retailers, and it's going to skin you 300 quid as well. But that's my honorable mention. That's not getting into my top 3 yet. So at number 3 for me is Glenelg 12, just straight off Glenelg 12-year-old. No special release on this one, just the one you can buy at the supermarket, at the stores for £40, which you can't go wrong with. I was lucky enough to go up to Glenelg last year, do a tasting of a load of their whiskies. And I think, Billy Walker's just absolutely crushing it right now, doing some amazing stuff. He seems to have the kind of touch of gold when it comes to distilleries. 12-year-old for me, I just got this really nice butterscotch, like raisins coming through right at the finish. There was like this chocolatey note, unchill filtered, 46%. And like I said already, 40 quid. Beautiful dram, like amazing stuff. So yeah, that was my number 3. What about you for number 3, Daz? What did you come in at?
So number 3, I'm actually going to stick with you on the red wine cask thing. And that is typically more hit and miss. I actually have all 3 of these whiskies in front of me as well. So if you don't mind, I'll have a wee pour. Lejeune Sinclair series, the Rioja cask is absolutely delicious. It was £36. And it comes in at 46.3%. It's lovely. So Lejeune is peated Tobermory in effect. So it's quite smoky, but it's got that lovely richness and that lovely sweetness that comes through with a little bit of spice there on the background. And I just felt for the price and the times that I've enjoyed it, usually out the back, we fire on and things like that. It's a whiskey I remember. It's a whiskey I thoroughly enjoyed and felt like it was unbelievable value for money. Number 2 for you, mate.
Number 2. What was number 2 for me? Well, I had this down. I went all the way down to Campbelltown for this one, actually, in the shape of a bit of Glen Scotia Victoriana, which I think is possibly, I mean, it goes in my top 3, but also one of the best non-age statement whiskies I've ever tried. A bit of a complex beast, so it's one of the ones that I wouldn't say if you're starting your whiskey journey, go run out and buy a bottle. But at 54.2%, and I think it is around about £60. Again, you can't really go wrong with this one. And again, one of the ones that really opened my eyes a little bit more to Glen Scotia, which I wasn't really that familiar with. I loved the complexity of this. There was, this caramel characteristic on the nose with some burnt sugars, gentle smoke in the background, like just a faint wisp of it. Again, going back to that chocolatey sweetness I was getting from this, like blackcurrant jam on the palate, mate, and just an insane amount of flavors. And I know that we've chatted about this before. And I actually went through all the Glen Scotias just before Christmas from that tasting pack that you gave me. And the Victoriana was still my favorite, even over like the 25. I think there was a 25, 21 that was in there. I'd still pick the Victoriana over that.
Well, this is uncanny. I haven't picked a Victoriana, but I have picked Glen Scotia as my second. Couple of Glen Scotia fanboys here.
Hey, it's like I say, we're getting in sync. You know what I mean? It's all happening.
Starting to look like each other, starting to drink the same things. Oh, my hair's going to fall out soon. I know it. It's coming. Yep. Right. So, Glen Scotia, the seasonal release, the 2021 seasonal release, I thought was absolutely delicious. I tried it in the Black Cat in Edinburgh, wee pub just behind the shop there on George Street, and it's great because it's got tons and tons of American oak influences. There's a hint of sherry in there, but it's like recharred American oak, virgin oak, American oak. It's got loads and loads of big vanillas, these creme brulee notes that you've talked about, a little bit of fruit there as well, a bit of yellow fruit coming through. I thought was sensational. I guess what turned me on probably to Glen Scotia was the festival release from 2020, the port one that was a little bit peated, was delicious. And also the red wine, the Bordeaux red wine one as well, the 10-year-old was very good as well. But that seasonal release is an absolute standout whiskey for me from 2021, no doubt.
That is so weird that we both picked the same brand. And just to let everyone know, we purposely didn't want to tell each other about what we'd selected for this. So that is a complete coincidence.
And I must say, again, good price point. It was 75 quid, the seasonal release for a bottle. So it's not outrageous.
Nice, mate. We're keeping to budget here on the podcast. It's good.
We're both quite tight, aren't we?
Well, you are.
Yeah, I am. Sorry.
All right. Number 1, Daz. Go for it. Number 1. Let's hear it.
Do you want me to go?
You to go.
Okay.
I've gone first every time.
So obviously I changed jobs sort of 3/4 of the way through the year last year. And one of the final things I actually did was one of these Zoom events with Davidoff and Dalmore. And what we were doing was launching our distillery exclusive, the 2021. So it was a Dalmore, 14 years old, cask strength. And the brilliant thing about this Dalmore is that it was matured exclusively in ex-bourbon casks. Okay, so it's what one of the guys that works at Royal Mail Whiskies would call a naked Dalmore. And there are not many examples of those because there's so many influences from sherry casks, from wine casks and things like that. So the Dalmore 14, distillery exclusive, 55.2%, matured in beautiful ex-bourbon casks. And I find it absolutely delightful. And I'm glad I've still got some left. I sit and have a wee sip of this one, and I really do sit back and enjoy it. More expensive, this one is about 250 quid. It was only available at Harrods and the distillery itself. So that was my favourite whiskey in 2021.
I remember doing that tasting when you guys launched it, when you were up in Edinburgh, trying to do it from the penthouse in Scotland when it was blowing a gale and no one could hear what you were saying.
I don't know what happened, but the wind picked up just about an hour before the event. It was a nightmare.
Genius. Yeah, but that is a good dram though. I like that one. So for me, number one, and I think this is kind of reflective of a brand that I really got into last year. So number one, this for this specific expression, but also I think for this brand of whiskey, because you probably know what it is after me saying this, Daz, because I harp on about it all the time. But it was Ben Riach smoke season.
Yeah, you do. Yeah,
and I just think Ben Riach, what they're doing right now, Rachel Barry's just knocking it out of the park. Just some beautiful liquid coming out of that distillery. So the smoke season is part of their kind of, I think it's part of the full range, but they've also got there's a floor maltings. What is it called? The malting season, I think it is. That's come out now as well. So it's part of that. So smoke season is aged in all American wood, finished in virgin virgin oak. Starting to start like a raging alcoholic here because this is another very high ABV sitting at 52.8%. But I love this because this is a nice Highland smoke, which is what I like to call it. It's more of that bonfire smoke as opposed to that sort of TCP medicinal that you may get from Islay. There's that nice vanilla sweetness coming through, obviously from the American wood. And again, bargain. I think you can pick this up at around about £60. So another good buy for anyone out there that's looking for a little bit of smoke in their life.
Yeah, great lineup of whiskies.
Now that would be a nice back bar. I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, a whole range of flavors. You've got the smoky Lejig. You've got a wee bit of peat in there as well, but different areas of Scotland too. Interestingly, no Isleys. And we did try some nice Lagavulins last year. We tried the Jazz Festival bottlings and things like that. So, that's good. Maybe one for next year, eh?
So let's move away from our favourite whiskies of last year and let's talk about top episodes. What do you think, mate? What was your one?
Okay, so 16 episodes we did last year, which is amazing, really, from April through to December. A lot of listens. And the most listened to episode was Brendan McCarran's episode, and that was a really good one.
Don't say that, mate. He's got a big enough head already. Come on.
He's like famous and stuff. But my favourite episode... I really enjoyed the Lowlands episode.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did. I thought that was really cool. I thought it was brilliant just to kind of dig a little deeper, and you actually forget how much is going on in the Lowlands. And we do skim over it sometimes, but when we listed out how many new distilleries there were, how many of them were in the Lowlands, and how many of them, of course, weren't there 10 years ago, there's obviously been a huge shift. And it's great that that we got to sort of spin through a few of those, taste some nice whiskies, and learn a couple of wee bits and pieces as well. So I felt, for me, that was episode probably enjoyed the most.
I think for me it was, well, I'm gonna do two if I can be so bold.
See, you're not very good at answering questions, are you?
I know.
You picked 4 whiskies for your top 3, basically, and now you're picking 2 episodes for your favorite episode.
What can I say, mate? I'm greedy that way. But I think for me, it was the first one that we did together, because that was us popping our podcast cherry and also just spraffing about what we did back in the day, and just talking about Ambassador Tales. And that is actually our most popular episode, by the way, not the Brendan one. So Brandon, if you're listening, then you're not number one.
Did I get that wrong? Did I?
You're number 2, mate. You're number 2. But anyway, so yeah, that was my favorite one because looking back on that, it's kind of funny to think about. We knew what we were doing, and we were just starting this whole thing up, and we're like, right, let's just do this episode, and we kind of put a little bit of an idea of what we were going to do, but we just spraffed to the microphone. And then the next one I'd say would be the one that we just did, the Charlie McLean one, because we actually got to do something in person. 90% of what we're doing when we're recording these now are on Zoom and recording them that way. But to actually go along to Charlie's place, have quite a few whiskies, it ended up. I mean, that could have gone really kind of crazy if we'd stayed any longer with him. But sitting down and having dinner with him afterwards and all that kind of stuff, that was really cool. So yeah, that's I've got 2 there, mate. And I think as well, if I was gonna have a third one, the one that I'm most proud that we did was the one on sustainability, because that's like quite a big piece to do, and we had to do a lot of research into that, and there was a lot of moving parts in that one. That was probably the one that we had to do the most amount of work for.
Yeah, and you got good speakers on that as well.
Yeah.
The 2 guests that we had in are absolute gurus in their field. So yeah, no, that was a good episode actually, and again, thinking about what we get out of it, we learned a lot with that sustainability one as well. But I'm going to stick to Lowlands because that was the question that I asked.
Should have been top 3, mate.
Yeah, we should have done top 3. We've only got 16, so all right.
Should we move out of the virtual world and talk about our best whiskey experiences last year? I was thinking about this before we did it, and it's kind of weird, right? You know, being within that sort of, we've both semi moved out of the corporate world now, and you know, back in the day, it would have been pretty crazy answering these questions. It would have been like, oh yeah, you know, that time when I flew over to Miami and did that tasting of the 40, 50, and 60-year-old or whatever it was, and now it's very much like, well, A, we haven't been able to travel that much last year, and B, we're not doing that crazy stuff anymore. But mine were all based in Scotland, which was kind of cool. And 2 of them, well, 1.5 of them was with you. So I say half because it was the Isla Endura trip that you didn't make it on, because you literally didn't make it onto the ferry. But going over to Isla Endura with Craig was really cool. It was just a shame you didn't make that. But the one I did do with you that I thought was really cool was the Lewis trip with the Larkfire boys. And, you know, we had more Swedish Whiskey Girl over there. We had Teddy there. I'm forgetting we had Rosalind from the Scotsman. Who else do we have there? Obviously, James and Moff from Larkfire as well were over there, and Mark came over towards the end. But that was a fun trip, man. Such a cool place to go and see. We'd both never been there before.
Yeah, so that's definitely right up there. And that Larkfire trip was class. My 2 memories of that were being in the still house at the Harris Distillery when it was running its only its second run of peated malt through the distillery, and we walked into the still house, and immediately I was like, "Oh, this smells delicious," you know. And me and Moa were talking about it, and you know, it had that lovely Christmassy sort of smoked meat kind of aroma going on in the still house, and it was really quite special. And the other bit of that trip was the tasting that we did in the pub for charity in the evening, and we did. I did a Dalmore Portwood, Gemma did Balvenie Caribbean cask, and Teddy did at the Highland Park, and it was a 19-year-old. Yeah. The dark, was it the dark? Wasn't it? It was delicious.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was good. It was so good just doing a tasting again. Even though I wasn't tasting anything, I was emceeing it all, which was nice. Introducing all you guys.
That was the first real life tasting in over a year. So no, I really appreciated that. That was super cool. And the other one was I actually took a little spin up to Speyside with Todd Bradbury, and a couple of guests from America had flown over, and we tasted some whiskies in the Station Hotel, and it was a couple of really special whiskies, one from Royal Lochnagar and one from Knocando. And oh my God, these things were unbelievable. I mean, they were just sensational whiskies. 35, 40-year-olds, you know, one-offs, which is why I didn't put them in my top 3 whiskies, because it's irrelevant almost, you know, and very few people will actually get a chance to try those.
All right, that's cool, mate. Yeah, I mean, you know, looking forward to this year, hopefully getting some more whiskey trips down, because we should, in theory, be able to travel again a little bit more.
We did say that, though. We were going to do, as part of our New Year's resolutions, we're going to make sure that we did at least Campbelltown, Isla, or Speyside together. Yeah. You know,
well, at least we're at least going to do one, right? Hopefully we do 2 and maybe do 3 trips.
Yeah.
That's the plan, people. So Not Another Whiskey podcast on tour, coming your way in 2022, for sure. Let's talk about whiskey branding, mate. What was your standout whiskey brand? And that can be bottle design, adverts, kind of whatever you want. What was that for last year?
I kind of struggled with this one a little bit.
Really?
I couldn't really think.
I for me, it was straight. I knew what it was straight away.
Go for it.
Woven.
Yeah.
I just put down Woven straight away. I mean, you know, the guys were on the podcast here. New brand, just fresh take on whiskey, both bottle descriptions, the way they're putting the whiskey together. And then to top it all off, when I saw their window display in Royal Mile Whiskies, I was like, that's fucking money. That's really cool what they've done there. Well done, Woven boys. Duncan, Pete, Nick, good job.
Top job. Good nudge on that one, Mitch. I would say Fable. I have to, don't I?
You do.
For similar reasons. Very different. You know, products that look beautiful, that stand out on a shelf, that get you excited about whiskey, and all the compliments and the comments that we've had on Fable have been fabulous. And a lot of it, a lot of people that hadn't tried the whiskies still pass a comment on the bottles and go, they're super cool, really love them. Can we get prints of those labels and things like that? So yeah, I'll go with Fable, and I support fully your judgment there on Woven, because yeah, the guy's done a brilliant job as well.
No, that is a good shout on Fable, though. I mean, I love that, the whole storytelling part of it, and the way everything's put together.
And the truth shall set you free.
There you go. That's what I think of that.
There we go. Very good. Okay. So on that then, ones to watch for 2022 based on great whiskey, great branding, brilliant distilleries to visit and things like that. Who are your eyes on for 2022? Pick one.
Pick one brand. Mate, I don't know. I mean, I'm quite excited with a bit of what's going. If I can go outside of Scotland, I'm a bit excited about what's happening within World Whiskies. The likes of, it just fresh in my mind right there from Rampur, chatting to them and seeing what they're up to, which little sneak peek for you guys. We are going to do the next episode on Indian whiskey, so we're going to have a dig into that. So I think there's a lot of exciting stuff going on there. I'd say Scotland, Knocknean, I'm interested to see what they come up with next, their whole sustainability line. I think the liquid is really good there. I mean, there's so many new distilleries that are coming out right now that are going to produce new juice this year. We've got Lag coming out. They're going to be legal. We've got the other distillery that just flew into my mind, that just flew out again, which is another one that's... Lockley, yeah. With obviously John Campbell going down there, managing that. That's going to be really interesting. So I think it's the small guys is what I'm kind of excited to see, and more from what they're just going to produce and how that's all going to look when all these new distilleries come online, which I think we've got about 3 or 4 coming online this year.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Deanston. I love their whiskey. I love what they've done with the Virgin Oak. So if they do another 2 or 3 releases over the next 12 to 18 months, I'd be really excited to see what they produce.
I think that whole portfolio is going to be really interesting with Brendan and what he's going to do, to push everything. You're talking Deanston, Bunnahabhain, and Tobermory. I think that's going to be fun times to see, and not just liquid wise as well. I know they're putting a lot of money into the whole visitor experience there, and that'd be great to see all that.
Looking back then on 2021, so we've talked a little bit about whiskies we've enjoyed, a little bit about branding and stuff like that. There were a few massive headlines in 2021, big news things. What do you think was the biggest thing that shook the timbers of the whiskey industry here in the UK and around the world? What stands out for you? What's stuck in your mind?
I mean, there was 2 things really. The first thing is that shocked, I think, both of us, with the Whiskey Exchange getting sold to Pernod. I don't think anyone ever saw that coming.
That was a big one. And I think people were kind of like, whoa, what's happening here? How did that even come about? And we've met Sikander over the years. We've been to all the whiskey shows and things like that. And you don't think of the Whiskey Exchange without thinking of Sikander and Billy and Dawn and things like that. And they may never move on. They may stay there in different capacities as time moves on and things. But for it now to be owned by a big company like Pernod is... didn't see it coming.
I'm still kind of confused about that. Still don't really know what's going on there, but anyway, it'll be interesting. But the other one was the 1 of 1 auction, which we covered off. And, that made me happy more than like being big news, because
that's unusual.
That was a really good
unusual
story. Yeah, it's unusual, man. Yeah, thank you. Call me a grumpy bastard. I thought that was really cool because, you're talking raising £3 million for charities around Scotland. That was obviously amazing in itself. And that's the big headline from that. But the other thing is it was the fact that all these Scottish distilleries and Scottish companies work together for that cause. And we always talk about distilleries in Scotland having that community, and, everyone drinks everyone's whiskey and talks about everyone's whiskey in a positive way. And I think that was a great example of that.
Okay. Not talking about whiskey in such a positive way. I think Jim Murray and the Whiskey Bible sensation was a remarkable thing to witness. Becky had obviously called it out, supported by many from across the industry, about how we change this kind of old school, approach to whiskey. We all have a place at the table here. We're all involved in it. We all make it. We all work on it. And things need to be equal. It's pretty much as simple as that, and they should be. And that was a big talking point, wasn't it? That's something that actually reared its head just a few weeks ago again as well.
Yeah, and I'd say that reared its ugly head by an ugly newspaper and brought out some ugly people that wanted to talk about it. And the timing of it, this guy hasn't talked about. He hasn't addressed this issue at all until his new fucking Bible comes out. I mean, what a load of shite that was.
Other big news from 2021 is that Mr. Blair Bowman didn't leave the house.
Why didn't he leave the house, mate?
Yeah, because he didn't want to lose his sense of smell.
Oh, baby.
Yep. Lots going on in 2021 and a ton of stuff to look forward to, mate, in 2022. And we kind of talked about it briefly at the start. But Mitch, rattle off what we are doing in 2022 with Not Another Whiskey Podcast, bro.
Well, I mean, we're talking 50 episodes, as we said at the start. We've pretty much planned them all out. We know what we're going to do. I mean, that plan, knowing us, mate, it's going to change, but we've got a kind of semi-roadmap as to what we're going to do for the entire year. We do know we're going to be pumping out one a week. That is the goal. And going on tour, taking it on tour, taking it live. We're toying with the idea of doing virtual tastings as well. So actually, you guys could have the opportunity to taste the whiskies we're going to be talking about on the podcast, which should be a cool thing and bring it out. But before we head off as well, Daz, let's talk about our super fans, the people who are constantly at us on social media, commenting on the episodes and giving us some great feedback. For you, who is it?
Yeah, very easy, this one, I think, for me. Colin Mayers regularly checks in. He's always commenting on posts. He's based out in New Zealand as well, which is brilliant that he's finding the time just to sort of tune in when he's ready, when he's got time. And I liked his point the other day about New Zealand writing a whiskey book as well. He reckons there's not been really a substantial piece of literature written on New Zealand whiskies, probably for about 30 or 40 years, since the 80s. So
let's get him on the show, mate. Maybe we'll do a little. Maybe, I think New Zealand's in there, or New Zealand or Australia are in there for one of the episodes. So
yeah. I would love to get Colin on just to chat about New Zealand whiskies. That'd be amazing. So mate, thanks so much for all your comments and thanks for engaging with what's happening on the podcast. It's brilliant, mate, and keep the recommendations coming as well.
Absolutely, and that goes to everyone listening as well. We want to hear from you guys. So if you are on Instagram, follow us, Not Another Whiskey Podcast. We've got a website, we've got all that. There's really easy to get in contact with us if you want to mention anything or put any ideas to us. I think for me, another honorable mention, if I can, is Chris Williams. Williams is always mentioning us on comments and everything as well, and putting forward ideas for what he would want to see us do. So we love all that kind of stuff. So thank you very much, Chris, and thank you very much to all you guys for listening to our wee podcast last year. Great to have you on board.
Let's wrap this one up, mate. Next week, we're going to head over to Jura and we're going to catch up with my old mate, Mark Bruce, and hear about what's happening on the Jura distillery. There's 212 people live on Jura. So during a pandemic, during lockdown, Christmas and New Year, let's hear how it was for Mark. He's originally from Australia, lived in London after that, and then moved up to the Isle of Jura. So yeah, he'll have some nice stories for us, and I'm certain he'll have a few decent whiskies for us to taste as well.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We're going to tap out. We look forward to seeing all you guys, hopefully in the flesh at some point. Take care and slange boom boom.
Slange boom boom.